Hello, 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 and welcome everyone to Fun Friend Friday. I love Fridays, and when I get to pull in a friend of mine that we've shared either a coaching experience or a teaching experience or a leadership experience, or somebody I've just followed and admired for a great time, and really want to bring them into you guys so you get to know who they are and get to know more about them. And so that's what Fun Friend Friday is all about. Good evening, Deb. Good morning, Mel. I am going to need to get a cameraman and a sound guy if Fun Friend Friday continues to go the way it is. I see Dr. Gail has jumped on, and I'm going to bring her on screen here in just a minute. Don't panic, Dr. Gail. Don't panic. We got you. So for the rest of you who are signing up, go ahead and take a moment and hit the share button. Good morning, Kayleen. First, prayers for you and your family right now. I know it's a joyful, painful time. Thank you for teaching me that lesson, that in pain there is joy and in joy there is pain. And that if we didn't have the two sides, we wouldn't see the abundance and the grace that we live under. So thank you for that lesson, Kayleen. You are a brilliant teacher, a wonderful writer, and a great faith guide. So thank you for that. And if you all would just sort of, send a little energy towards her for baby Faith Joy and her father this week. So good morning, Melanie. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to jump on and grab Dr. Gail. I hope the sound is good. I thought about the headphone thing with the mic, but I don't know. If it's too bad, let me know. I'll keep an eye on it. But what I want to do before Dr. Gail gets in is I've had the privilege of working alongside Dr. Gail as a John Maxwell team member. I've had the joy of teaching with her. I have had so many encounters with her that I thought, I'm keeping a light under the bushel and I am failing you all. And so by bringing her in today, I want to share into you her wisdom, her experience. Thank you, Holly, Dr. Kelly. I got doctors all over me. I feel honored. I got Dr. Holly, Dr. Gail, I don't know, Dr. Melanie. We'll find another doctor in the room, I'm sure. Dr. Tanya Lowe will probably be here in a minute. So I want to share her with you. So if you haven't done a Facebook Live and want to know how to do it, I'm going to walk you through it and also coach Gail as we do. So you slide over, you find the person, you hit their face, you say, bring Gail on camera, and getting the invite, she's connecting, and voila, we have Dr. Gail. So, see, technology is not complicated, is it, Gail?
No, it's your friend.
I'm going to have you move up for the sound. You're a little weak on the sound, but it may be me. I'll have Dr. Kelly do a sound check for us as well. It may just be...
I just turned it up because you were real quiet, so that made me real quiet. So
good deal. Okay. Well, as you know, you hit it right. Sorry. We have to have a song, and I was trying to think. I'm thinking, okay, Dr. Gail song. I need a Dr. Gail song. And then I thought, ooh, Dr. Gail's old school like me. Dr. Gail and I have shared a little experience where she does the I am. And then I thought, I am, and then Dr. Gail, and I thought, so here's your song, Dr. Gail. So for those young folks, what song is it?
Oh, I Am Woman.
It's Helen Reddy's I Am Woman, Hear Me Roar. Mm-hmm. I mean, I Am Woman, Hear Me Roar, and numbers too big to ignore. I know too much to go back and pretend because I've heard it all before and I've been down on the floor, but not no more. As she goes on to tell, I will rise, I am wise. I really have to say, watching your journey over this last year, I have seen you just continue to rise and rise and rise and rise. And your awareness is almost multiplicable. Is that a right word? Multiplicable. I'll use it.
Boy, you're using words this morning. Wow.
Let me get rid of Miss Helen. She's overshadowing your voice here on me. But the idea of you're more and more determined every day to achieve something great in your life. And I think that's a really great quality of you, is your your perseverance and your determination and your grittiness. I know grittiness isn't glamorous and crowns and makeup, but grittiness gets a lot done. But before we jump onto
I'm a crown kind of girl anyway, so.
You're not a makeup and glamour girl. Let me try this
No,
here.
no, not at all.
Well, yeah, I'm fiddling with my camera, so don't panic. There we go. So tell what you used to do in your previous life, Dr. Gail.
Well, I'm a nurse by trade, so once a nurse, always a nurse. But
it's like a Marine. Once a Marine, always a Marine.
Absolutely. I'm a real nurse. Okay, the RN, real nurse. That's what it stands for. And I've worked in healthcare for my whole career, 30 years, and the last 12 was in corporate healthcare. And so that was my world before, and it was a great world. I excelled and loved what I did. I worked in organ transplant, and so I really, I loved what I did up until the last year of my corporate world. And knew there was something better and something new that I needed to do with my life.
I mean, transplant organ. I'm
to your stage.
that it's got to be amazing being in that environment where you're watching one life pass and the gift of life being given to another. How do you help and guide both the donor family or the gifting family and the receiving family?
Well, I think for the donor family, it gives them a sense of their loved one living on and someone else, because most of the people who become organ donors, they left for work or they left their family that morning and never expected not to come home, and their family never expected not to see them again. So it's usually a fairly traumatic something that's happening that leads a person to become an organ donor. And so for those families, they're in just the worst part of grief they can be in. And so offering them the chance to have their loved one live on and help someone else, for most people, is very, very comforting in what it can be. Sorry, the Yorkie is announcing someone's at my door.
Isn't that the way it all? It's kids and dogs.
Kids and dogs, yeah. And so, so that was very rewarding. It was, they were very giving families, and I love that. And then on the receiving side, you've got families who have loved ones who have end-stage organ failure, and without a transplant would die or will die, especially the heart and the lung, the thoracic and liver, the thoracic organs and the liver. And so these people have dealt with the person getting sick. Sometimes it's a very sudden sickness, so like the person who dies, it's kind of sudden for them. And so you watch, I watched thousands of patients die waiting to get a transplant. So it's kind of a bittersweet, but when you see how wonderful and how it changes the recipient's life and their family, and then when you get to see the donor and the recipients meet sometimes, it's even more exciting because, they have this connection. And so it is a very rewarding career. I wouldn't change any of that for the world.
I can't imagine what it must be like to have that cooler, so to speak, that you have to, take from one end of a hospital, sometimes to the other end of the country, and deliver, and knowing that vessel that you carry is somebody's past life and somebody's future life, somebody's history and somebody's future, and that you are the connector, the bridge, the link between those, and not only in the physical form of being the nurse on duty that's jumping on the helicopter and flying off to make sure this happens successfully, but also, I'm sure as you're departing one family, you've connected to them, you've met their story, you've heard about the donor's life. My son, my daughter, my husband would really want this. He was this kind of person. She was that kind of person. So as you're carrying that, I'm imagining you can still feel that person's life in your hand, and you're racing with hope to save another life. That is, I don't know if I'm a big enough man to handle that.
Well, and the two sides are very separate for a reason. So the people who handle the donation part of it are totally separate, and from the transplant center side. The transplant center side, They know about the person, they know history, they know what happened to them, because they had to have all that information to be able to make a decision whether, to accept the organ or not for their patient. But they're not allowed to interact with the donor family. So that's all they know. And on the recipient, on the donor side, the people who work with the donor's family, all they know is an age and a sex, for the recipient as well. So it's kind of those little tidbits that kind of thread it together. And everybody that works in this area of work is called pretty much to do this. And the surgeons and team on the recipient side and the team that's on the donor side have a very big commitment and feeling that they owe this family, both sides of these families, true respect and to honor them in the way they should be honored. And so it's very cool to see how this all works. And we were the most highly, and still are the most highly regulated of anything in the medical profession. Everybody has had their hand in the till, from ethics to the government to everybody, to put regulations on. So we do this all in a matter of millions of regulations and constraints that we have to live under. And so it's just a very dedicated group of people, and transplant's still very young. I mean, it started in the early 50s, 40s and 50s. It's not an old profession. People think it's been around forever, and so it was a great career. I wouldn't change it for the world, but the regulations and the hospital it gets to you after a while, because you're fighting hospitals who have budget issues, and we're very expensive. We bring in a lot of money to a hospital, but the transplant side, but we also cost a lot of money to run, because we've got a lot of people and a lot of moving parts. You could imagine trying to be able to get a team out and a team back, and everybody all in. It's kind of like, I always said, it was like orchestrating a full Philharmonic orchestra. Everything has to fall in place in time, exactly as it's supposed to. So it's like directing this big crazy
Well,
thing.
and I imagine on that degree that, and it happens in the hospital settings and in the caregiving settings, probably, it happens everywhere, but you come in with a desire, commitment, and passion to be of service to individuals. And often in that legal system, the bureaucracy, I understand it's there for a lot of reasons, but sometimes that's what burns out our very best healthcare professionals, is they get barricaded from doing what their heart is called to do. And so it must have taken a great deal of passion and commitment to stay. You said 30, how many years?
I was a nurse for 30 years, and I was in transplant for 28 of those years. Yeah.
So that's some tough spirit. That's the grit.
Plant are either burn out really quick and they're out of there. It wasn't what they signed up for, or they're long-termers. When I was at my last gig at the University of Minnesota, I had the longest, the Minnesota thing, yeah. I had the oldest group, the longest running group of transplant coordinators in the country that worked for me. Some of them had been doing it for as long as I have been doing it, and they had been doing transplant that long. And that's true. Those people had true commitment to their cause, and they loved their patients. They loved everything that was about it. But we lost, in all of our healthcare craziness, we lost that mentoring that I love with what I do now with the John Maxwell team. We had lost that mentoring spirit, and we would throw people to the wolves and then leave them, and not give them any support. And so we worked really hard, in every place that I served, to make sure that we took care of those youngins, and tried to get them. We knew that if they got over the 4 to 5 year mark, they probably were going to stay in transplant. But you had to get past that milestone.
So I love the way you segued. But before we go into your current life, I'm going to go ahead and let you do the official plug. Be an organ donor.
Yes, it's the greatest gift you can give. You don't need your organs. Sorry, don't need them when you leave this world. And an organ, a solid organ donor, that's one that gives their solid organs, heart, lung, liver, kidney, pancreas.
Mine are mush. I'm old.
It doesn't matter. There are people who
Really?
have donated in their 80s and 90s. We have had transplants from transplant donors in their 70s, and we matched them with that age-appropriate recipient who needed an organ.
So there's a really big point to pass on. So I don't want to jump over that, because there's sort of the conception that the only good organs are those from Olympic athlete type of people that go and do CrossFit every morning and have been on vegan diets for 20 years.
Some of them
so
are.
Everybody has something to donate.
Yes. And at the time, and so say yes. And at the time that you're ready to donate, if that should happen.
I probably won't be able to say yes at that point.
Well, you say yes, but then you're evaluated. You're evaluated at that point in time in your life, and it's up to the surgical side. It's up to the transplant physicians and the surgeons to make that decision. These people, some of them will die tomorrow if they don't get, or today if they don't get a transplant. They're hours away from death. And so they might take a little more marginal donor, because it will give that person another 3 to 5 years of life that they wouldn't have had with their family. So just don't take age into consideration. It's not a consideration. They will evaluate it at the time. Make sure your family knows. That's the biggest, that you want to do this, so that they'll honor it at the time of your death.
We may never get to our leadership lesson, because that idea that 3 to 5 years to a healthy person doesn't seem like a lot. Like, we pass over 3 to 5 years in our normal day-to-day activities and don't even notice that our driver's license expired. But as I heard that, I thought, wow, that would mean my daughter wouldn't be 7. She might be 10 or 11
or might get to
12.
Might get to her first birthday.
Yeah.
You know?
And so that
and
3 to 5 years is a lifetime.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And the other thing to know, that if you can't be a solid organ donor, you can enhance the lives of each donor can, if they decide to give tissue, they can enhance the lives of thousands of people. You don't know that bone is ground bone is used in dental work. There's so many things. People who have tumors and need reconstructive surgery. Bone is a magical thing. After it's implanted into a person, like a long bone is implanted into someone, within a year it's their own bone. It's amazing.
You own it. No warranty included.
Yeah. So just, you have to think of it in that realm. Yes, there are lives that you can save, but there are lives that you can enhance by being a donor as well.
That's a huge legacy. That, we walk through lives, and sometimes we think we have to make this huge, get on the big stage, talk to thousands legacy, when in fact being able to donate tissue, which is Melanie, I know, does a lot of tissue transplants and things like that, that being able to donate tissue, you could impact thousands of lives, thousands of people, in burn victims and skin grafts and healing organs and things that if you said that one of your mission's vision goals in life was to impact thousands, you could accomplish that today by signing a donor card.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh,
yeah,
well.
So it's been a great
I'm glad I did mine a while ago, because I'd hate to be schooled on that.
Yeah, I have a funny story I can tell you. My kids grew up in this world with me being a single parent and doing this job. And I started out on the procurement side. So I started working with those donor families, and then I did the jump over into the hospital world with all of this. And they used to tell their friends, oh, I'd come out of the door and I'd see them with no helmets on, or I'd see all these other things going on. They're riding their bikes or their skateboards and everything with no helmets. And I'd say, where are the helmets? The whole gang on my yard. And my little one would say, oh, she must be going on a case, just humor her. Okay, just humor her and listen and wear your helmet and do all these kind of things. But when it came time for them to get their driver's license, and it was time for them to decide about their donor cards, I'll never forget, my older one said, oh, I'll be glad to sign David, my younger son. I'll be glad to sign his donor card. Give me that card, Mom. Let me sign the card. But my kids had told me, they said that would be the most horrible thing for us, knowing what you've done and what you've taught us, if you did not honor this wish of mine at the time. It will be very hard for you. And even though you do it for a living, and I would come back and haunt you if you didn't honor my wish. And so tell your family. That's the most important thing you can do. I've dealt with families who didn't know that that's what the person wanted, but figured that knowing what the person was like, they'd want to do it for them. So it just makes that decision easier on the loved one who has to make the sign the final papers. Laws are changing so that we don't have to worry about that as much as we used to. Because now, if the license, if you said yes on your license, it's a legal document. So, we have.
Well, and I know in Georgia, I think you get your license renewed for free if you sign up as a donor. Or there's some kind of, like, if you sign up as a donor, you don't have to pay. I mean, it's a small cost, but I think it's that sometimes that little bit of reminder nudge that we all like, okay, what the heck? Well, what's the loss?
To make sure that they are educating people. So a lot of education went on with that. And that actually started out of the Cleveland OPO that I used to work for. We were the first ones.
Cleveland, my birth home. See, I've been, Melanie, see, did you see that Minnesota and Cleveland?
Yeah. It's a link, it's just
always a link. Well, and so we're going to go to the leadership game in here in a minute.
Oh,
my leadership game, not the other one. But I know it's the holiday season, and if you haven't given the gift of legacy in life, maybe that's something that you could say, you know what, this Christmas, I'm going to go and fill out the forms. This holiday season, I'm going to meet with my family and tell them my biggest dream and desire is to give life to others. And I've done this, and this in process. And if you've got adult children that you haven't had the conversation with, share it with them. Show them that their legacy can begin with just checking a box and signing a name. And I think one of the things that you really pointed out that I hadn't thought about was that often the donor didn't anticipate that today would be donation day. They got up, there was a traumatic event, and it came crashing in. So the idea of, well, I'll do it at the first of the year, I'll do it in the new year, I'll do it sometime, that idea that you walk out your door and something happens, and that's when the decision has to be made. You can't wake up and sign the form. And the family, you don't want to put the family in a position where they have to make the decision for you, because they're in the middle of grieving and loss and adjustments and all of that. And it's traumatic enough to be standing next to somebody's bedside, but having to make these decisions and sort of as a committee, which probably often happens in family members, to have that document already on file where it's like, look, y'all really don't get a vote. This is what he wanted. I'm just giving you time to adapt into it. So who knew we were going to do donor awareness today?
Yeah, well, my last thing I will say, that's the hardest thing I think we don't do in this country, is we do not talk about the inevitability of death. Our family, we skirt it, and we don't talk about it with our kids. We don't talk about it as a family. And other cultures and other countries, they talk about these things. It's, life and death. It's part of that full circle. And we don't talk about it. And so if you can have that conversation, it's so much easier for the families I've worked with if that conversation's been had before.
And it doesn't have to be a morbid conversation. It can be a celebration. I mean, the idea that somebody will benefit, somebody's life will be altered because of an action that I may take this afternoon by signing a donor card, and knowing that there may be a dad somewhere on the other side of the world, so to speak, that receives my kidney, my liver, my organ, that gets to watch his daughter dance at a wedding because I took 5 minutes and signed a donor card. Sorry, I didn't think of it that way. And all because I took a moment and said, yes, I'll give a kidney, I'll give a liver, I'll give yeah. How could you deny a dad, a mom, a sister, a brother, an aunt, an uncle, or grandma that moment? If it's within your power to just sign a card and have an honest conversation with your family. Sorry, I need a minute.
Every minute you have is a minute I've got till that envelope opens.
So, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, Dr. Gail. I never saw it that way. Thank you. Thank you. Wow, I think we should just hang up the phone and run now because, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Let's do that.
I mean, honestly, thank you for teaching that, for bringing me to that moment. And that's what great leaders like you do, is they open up a space where we get to discover something about ourselves, or bring an awareness that maybe is like laying back there in the back here, that when you brought it to me, the lesson that I gained from you in that moment was far more valuable to me than a TV commercial reminding me. So thank you for that lesson. Thank you for that gift. I am like, woo. Okay.
It was my
Gotta get back in shape. I'm on camera now. Don't want to end up on one of those blooper reels. So, Fun Friend Friday. We need a theme song. I'll put Joe in charge of that. So if you haven't, I'm going to have you move a little closer to your mic though. So if you haven't seen Fun Friend Friday, what we do is we have envelopes filled with words of wisdom or leadership, like growth, opportunity, contribution, dedication. And in this envelope, my son has magically placed such a word for you to discover and then speak on. And because we're on camera and we had to have some fun way of identifying them, we decided to use the cereal from Lucky Charms. So we have Pink Heart, Blue Diamond, Yellow Moon. Everybody can chime in which one they think. Orange Star, Rainbow, Red Balloon, and Green Clover. Now, if you've watched in the past and you're thinking, oh, Dr. Kelly did Red Heart, or so-and-so did Red Balloon, I've changed it so you don't get the same words. So don't think you get to cheat when you show up here, that the words do change. So which do you want? Red Balloon, Rainbow, Yellow Star, Yellow Moon, Blue Diamond, Pink Heart, or Green Clover?
Oh, it's between Rainbow and the Clover. So let's go for the Clover.
This one's getting used a lot.
Oh, is it?
This was
go for the Rainbow. I'll go for Rainbow.
Well, it's a different word. I was just saying the envelope, but I'm going to switch up. Why not? Rainbow. On the other side of the rainbow is hope.
The pot of gold.
So we have rainbow. See, I have to do this like Steve Harvey so I don't screw up, because if I like... Sorry, Steve. I so respect your ability. Oh, this is so good. This word is so good. I love this word. This is divine. So the word that you were picked, and I know it's going to be reversed, but the word was faith.
Ah.
So give us a leadership or personal lesson about faith and your journey, and just go.
Oh, faith's a really good word, because you can interpret that kind of all different ways. That can be your spirituality. That can be your tenacity. It can be a lot of different things, faith. But for me, faith for me was taking that leap and just going in and quitting my job. Yeah, turning in my resignation and saying goodbye to my 3-figure salary. And making this jump into living the life that I really wanted to live, which was to go out and add value to people. And not that I wasn't doing that in my work, but I felt like I was always being held back by people who had other ideas of what they thought that should look like and not what I thought it should look like. And I think faith is an ongoing thing that you have to keep in the forefront, because I'm going through some tough times right now. Because, I'm launching a business, and, you pour a lot into your own development and into your own business, and things don't come quite as fast as you think, but you have to take that leap of faith, and you have to have that belief that you, like my I am statement, I am enough, and I have things and I have value to add to the world, and you have to have that faith inside of yourself that God is going to help direct you. and you are going to live out that life if you put in 100% of yourself and you serve others. Because I think I think faith kind of goes with how you live your life. And for me, faith means that I'm going to go out and I'm going to value others, and I'm going to give to others, and I'm going to help and serve others. If I do that, I'm going to reap back tenfold what I'm giving out to people. So all of that kind of, for me, is tied together. So faith is kind of a fun word and a fun thing, but it has a whole bunch of meanings. So I probably could have 20 bullet points underneath of it of what faith is. You know?
So when you feel rocked, and we all have those moments of feeling like,
yeah, today's one of them. Thank you.
The wobbly stool.
Yeah, this is divine because it's today's a wobbly stool. So, okay, go ahead.
So when you're in that wobbly stool moment, sometimes we act out of courage and sometimes we act out of faith. How do you blend the two? Because as an entrepreneur or a startup business, there has to be a blend. I'm trying to think of how to say it, but it's like, do you feel faith and act courageously, or do you feel courage through your faith? Like, what is the balance?
I feel courage through my faith. So like early this morning before doing this today, I had time to sit and reflect on how horrible this day looked when I got up because things didn't happen the way they were supposed to this morning.
Lord, tell me.
I'm working out a contract. The final payment was supposed to be in my account. It's not there today. Okay. I gotta deal with that. It's the first of the month. So, everything's trying to come out of your account on the first of the month. You know how that works. And so I had to sit down and I had to think about what my purpose was, what my vision is, what all those pieces. And I had to realize that I have the courage within me because of my faith, that I'm going through a process that I need to go through right now for a reason.
So courage for me,
through faith, I'm gonna be a better person for whatever it is I'm going through. And I've always felt that way through every challenge I went through in my life, raising kids by myself, all those kind of things. I always knew in my heart that I had the ability to do what I needed to do, and through faith and belief in myself, through God, I could get there.
What's interesting is the way you tied experience to courage to faith, that in the past I was faced with this, I overcame it, so I know I have that resource. So now I have the courage that, yes, I've been on this level, this ledge, this rope before, and I haven't fallen to the ground. So now I can do it again. And that faith is internal first through yourself. And that, I sort of, not to take away from divine, but if we lack faith in self, external faith doesn't really exist, does it?
No, it's all within us, and we have to be able to go through whatever it is to get to that point and to understand it. And it's difficult. I mean, it doesn't make it any easier, but it gives you some peace of mind to be able to say, okay, let's step back. Let's see what we can do in the interim. What are the things we can do because your tendency is to want to go back to the old.
What y'all didn't hear this. Let me just. She said, step back, review, evaluate, reassess, reset yourself on your focus. So that doesn't happen in a vacuum. That tells me that Gail somewhere has written down what her goals, her vision, her mission, her purpose statement is, and that she could sit in the chaos and the confusion and the doubt and the fear. Or, as she said, I needed to sit back. I needed to evaluate the resources I have, whether it's bank account or personal. I need to bring those in alignment with my desired outcome. And then I need to know that the resources I have from past, present, and future are available to be applied in this situation to guide me to where I want to go. And that feels like faith to me.
Yeah. And you got to be careful, because I have those grim ones too that say, oh, you could get another corporate job in an instant if you Or you could go work at the Container Store, or you could go work at Apple, or you could go, you could go get a job. But I don't want a job. I'm over the job part of it. But it's so easy when you get into those crisis modes to fall back on what has served you before. And so if you want to step into something bigger, you got to be real careful with it, because you got to do those things like sit back and evaluate and say, okay, what's the worst thing that can happen to me? It's kind of like coming out of the turning point, and the coach says to a person who's worried about falling, what's the worst thing that can happen? Your harness is going to catch you. Okay, gee. You look like a
Well,
weapon to a profile. You're not going to get hurt. What's the worst case scenario? And so you've got to look at that and say, oh, well, I might have to ask my kid for some money, or I might have to take a loan for a period of time, or whatever that is. But don't give up your dream because you're in a moment that's scary.
Oh, I'm stealing that one. Don't give up your dream because you're in a moment.
Mm-hmm.
In a moment. And that sounds like your dream can't fit into just a moment.
No, it's long
Your dream
term.
has always got to be bigger than the moment you're in. And if you can get out of the moment long enough to see the dream again, by then you're probably already halfway into the solution.
Yeah, what's the saying that if you don't take a step forward, you're always going to be where you've been?
Yeah.
I don't want to be where I was. I really don't. I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back there. Been there, done
Well, it's
that.
funny because I had a coaching client yesterday, and we were on that risk balance kind of thing. And I said, well, is anybody going to die as a result of your decision? And she said no. And I said, then everything you do after that is going to be good. As long as nobody's going to be dead after you finish, you're in a good spot.
Having lived as a critical care nurse, my decisions could have killed somebody. So I've been there, and so
my cooking could. So I've been right there with you.
Yeah. So I survived, saving people's lives for years. So I can save my own, right?
Oh man, big moment there. If I saved others, I can save mine. So I'm going to steal that as a teaching lesson, that when you're in that moment of doubt, in that moment of instability, in that moment of feeling empty in faith or loss of vision, look back and say, wait a minute, I have been in bigger, deeper poop than this before, and I'm still standing. So, okay. I look, personally, I could go back through like 1,000 experiences and be like, really? This is the best you got, universe? Now, yes, it has me in the moment, but it doesn't have me for long. And so I like that idea.
Put your waders on, and I think of my grandfather and his high waders fly fishing, Put the high waders on and just waddle through the mess until you get to the good side.
I think we got to give Dr. Gail the official, as our friend and mentor John Maxwell says, the first time you say it, you give credit. The second time you say, I heard it somewhere. And the third time you say, I say this often. I'm going to do it the first time. My friend Dr. Gail said, your dream has to be bigger than the moment you're in order to survive. Now, from now on, I get to say, I've heard it said. But that's a huge one, because we get so trapped in the moment and we're so afraid to let go of the moment, because if we let go of the moment, what's going to happen, and blah, 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 blah. And our brains go into that if we can just get out of the moment and get back to a vision of what our vision, purpose, passion, dream was, then we're in a whole new perspective to solve the problem. But we all look at that bank check, or that, pull up our bank balance online and it's not the number we want, or we get the rejection call. Or we get the call from the client that says, I need to postpone until next week, or the closing's not going to go through, or whatever it is that we were so focused on, that moment was going to be the pivotal moment that it was all going to shift. And when it doesn't happen, we don't get unstuck from that moment long enough to move into growth and opportunity. Man, Dr. Gail, you done made me give up a kidney and grow today.
Won't be in the far too distant future where they'll be able to do that. They've been working on that at the University of Minnesota. on actually taking your own cells and growing your own organs. So it's
Oh, that
coming.
sounds like one of
Maybe
those
not
sci-fi
my
movies.
lifetime, maybe not my lifetime, but it will be in my kids' lifetime that will happen. You know.
We'll all have little us's sitting in a jar waiting someday to be called into service.
Hey, you never know. You just never know.
That would be, that's just too freaky for me. Thinking there's
Yeah,
a me somewhere out there waiting in a
look
jar.
what sci-fi when we were kids. Look
Yeah.
at what sci-fi was, and it's happened now, and we've moved on. You know.
Oh, it's amazing technology. And to think of the span of 28 years from what was probably a non-viable organ back 28 years ago is now totally standard up. You know, we can totally deal with that.
Never. In the beginning, when I first did it, if you took an organ donor over 55 years old, they thought you were nuts. I think
it's funny when I hear things like hand transplants and arm transplants. I'm like, that's a lot of like sewing and matching and knitting.
Out of work.
But it's successful. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, I gotta tell you, Dr. Gail, you delivered. You were a little nervous. Your C personality last night when I called you into action because of a reschedule started to show up, and you had to make sure you were good and ready. And I got to tell you, I think you brought more than good and ready. I thought you brought great this morning.
Well, the timing was perfect because it got me out of my funk this morning. So, because I had to get ready to figure out what you were going to ask me, because it was like, whoa, you know, you never know what Eric's going to ask.
You know, I have like a ton of friends that I would love to invite, and some of them are like, I need to watch somebody else first. Like, how bad can it be? And I'm like, nobody dies. Trust me. And nobody's lost a limb in the process, so it's not that bad. I missed you.
I said, what's the worst case scenario?
Yeah, you could just hit end and leave. Okay. I look like a fool on the camera every Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern. I've gotten used to it.
For over 100
but Dr. Gail,
for over 100 times you've done it.
I think I should count. I bet I'm bumping up to 200. Good morning, Miss Vicki. You have got to go back and listen to this. This was a powerful lesson, Miss Vicki, with my friend Dr. Gail. We've talked about transplants. We've talked about the gift of life. We've talked about building a legacy with a simple stroke of a pen. We've talked about faith. We've talked about courage. We've talked about vision and goal setting. We've talked about not being stuck in the moment. If your dream is bigger than the moment, then why are you focused on the moment? Dr. Gail, you delivered on like levels. No wonder you got a DR in front of your name. I barely get an MR.
I'm not going to what that stands for. Oh, that's
Mr.
I was trying to make more out of it than it was.
Ah, there. No, some people just like, hey, you. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I got to tell you, thank you from the depth of my heart. It was wonderful to connect because we haven't talked in a couple of weeks. But you, man, I'm trying not to go back to that wedding moment.
Okay.
Because that was
probably.
I'll do that off camera because that was a powerful lesson. That was man, that idea that what I do today could give a dad a chance to dance at his daughter's wedding. That's a lot. That's a lot. And so thank you for the 28 years that you facilitated for families to have moments like that and to give moments like that. Thank you for your continued leadership and development personally, because that only makes you more accessible and resourced out for others. I know are you in the middle of teaching No Limits, or are you getting ready to teach No Limits?
Yep, No Limits Master. I got another story.
So make sure you drop that, because No Limit Thinking is where Dr. Gail is right now. And if you want to start developing a no limit mindset, I can't think of a better book and a better teacher to hang out with to do that.
Well, and I also have a pay it forward challenge for people for the holiday season. I'm offering a chance for people to buy a gift for someone who needs to have growth or needs development, or instead of buying them a material gift that they may or may not need or use. And they can buy the gift, and then the person will get to choose from 3 masterminds or a coaching session out of that. And pay it forward, because I think that's the way we're going to change the world, is by helping others get into the insight that we're getting. You know, a lot of us believe in development for ourselves, but some others don't. And so if you can give them and get them introduced to it, guys.
I love that idea of give the gift of growth. You know, so often you struggle and you know, at the last minute standing in Walmart trying to think what is the perfect gift for somebody. And the perfect gift for anybody is if you invest in them and invest in their possibilities, their potential. And so by giving them Dr. Gail's gift of growth, you're saying, I see so much more potential in you today than you may be aware of. So I want to pave that road. I want to clear that financial barrier that may have stopped you from stepping into it. And one of my favorite gifts is always to give books, sort of as one of those steps. This is like bigger than a book. This is like,
Yeah, you get
I
a book,
believe
you
it.
get the book and the course and
Oh,
the
see, I didn't know. But that is kind of cool to be able to say, I believe in you so much. I'm willing to invest in you because the return is going to be bigger than both of us can see. I like that. I like that program.
Corporate world. I didn't know what to give my management team. You know, and I would give them a book. That's usually what I would do. But this is just taking it kind of the step further to allow them to get really to dig in and make sure that they, if they don't actually read the book at the start, they get the lessons from the book.
I like that. Check that out. Drop that in below too.
I will.
I know you probably have a link for it. Well, everybody, thank you so much for joining me on this Fun Friend Friday. We need a theme song. I need somebody like Fun Friend Friday that I can hit the magic button and it'll play. Dr. Gail, thank you again for joining me.
Thanks.
Thank you, everybody. Make sure you take a moment and share this out. And I don't say that Diane was a Fun Friend Friday. Share this out because the lessons that Dr. Gail shared today about not only the organ transplant and the legacy in that, but also about faith, there's somebody somewhere that's got to touch into it. And if we don't share it out, they're not going to be able to find it. Facebook, contrary to what people think, is a very small channel. It's just me and my friends right now. But when you hit the share button, it becomes me and you and your friends and their friends. And that's one of the ways we can help honor Dr. Gail's 28 years in transplant is by touching as many people as we can with that message. So thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you Monday morning at 8 a.m. Bye-bye, Dr. Gail.
Bye.